So, Mike, you've been working with Colt, representing Zscaler and working heavily with us for the last few years. How do you see the market at the moment in terms of SASE, integration of Zscaler into other types of SD-WAN services?
Firstly, the relationship with Colt has been nothing but fantastic from the start. It's very unusual to find a really agile and innovation-driven partner in the connectivity space. So let's start with that.
Thank you.
That's made life much, much easier, especially the openness to integration and providing a holistic solution for a customer.
Yeah.
Now, where we see the market going, where we see SASE is, it's almost become a ubiquitous term now in market. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but really at the heart of it is a security outcome that is driven for and by the business.
Right.
Okay, so if you look at a lot of the analysts and if you look at a lot of the way that companies are going, they're moving towards, if they're following analysts, particularly they're looking towards single vendor SASE,
Yes.
although that is starting to change. There is starting to become an acceptance that maybe single vendor SASE isn't necessarily the way forward. We're seeing an awful lot of integrations. Zscaler prides itself on its integrations with the rest of the ecosystem.
Yes.
But the more important piece of that is companies are looking for platforms.
Right.
That's the driver. The ability to have 3 or 4 strategic platforms within a business that give you the range of outcomes or the range of capabilities to deliver the outcomes the business is looking for.
And I guess they're looking for consolidation then, a minimum number of partners and a number of vendors. But what we're saying here is, though, the multi-vendor SASE solution that we're talking about, where we add our SD-WAN services to your sort of SSE services, they're potentially a bit more complex. So how do we deal with that? How do we get the benefits out of multi-vendor SASE and yet avoid some of those complexities and issues?
It's remarkably simple. You have a single integration partner. Mm-hmm. So the wonderful thing is we all know there's a cybersecurity skill shortage. Budgets are ever decreasing, unlike my waistline. And we're in a situation where threats are getting more complex.
Yep.
They're getting more sophisticated. They are starting to use machine learning and AI and those types of technologies to increase the sophistication of those attacks. And the attacks are becoming more detrimental to an organization with greater fines from the regulatory and the compliance angles, but just also from a day-to-day business operation, brand damage, and etc.
Right. So doing it any other way than using a cloud security platform is a very hard thing for our customers, right?
It certainly is, because nowadays with everyone everywhere, everything everywhere, and your data distributed far outside of the traditional, it's on a SAN in my data center, we really find ourselves having to move to an inline concept, being that first edge from the user to wherever they're going.
Someone's coming to get you.
They're coming for me again. Being that first edge from the user to wherever they're going and providing an exchange-like service for that is becoming more important, because you have to be able to move that first level of protection to as close to the user as possible.
Yeah, and at the same time, obviously, the big buzzword in the security industry for the last couple of years has been zero trust, hasn't it, as well? Adding that context, security context, to every piece of communication that happens. So I guess at the moment, there's an even stronger emphasis on zero trust this year with the EU bringing out NIST version 2, so that you are meant to deploy a zero trust framework if you're going to be compliant, and also aspects of that coming into the US with what the federal zero trust policy is, all that type of stuff. So how are we using SASE and SSE type services to help customers deploy zero trust as a principle for their organization?
Again, it comes down, what are CISOs really looking for in this, or at least this is what I hear personally from the CISOs I engage with, is they're looking for really 3 things. It's consistency is the overarching umbrella. There's consistency of security posture, security practice, and then security experience for the user. And all of that has to be wrapped around with the idea that it can't impact the user, their productivity, and their own digital experience.
Well, we've just gone through exactly this actually by deploying Zscaler ourselves in the last sort of year and a half or so. And it was exactly that aspect that made our our board choose to come to Zscaler, that ability to do a consistent security policy globally, a simple way of employing zero trust across the whole aspect of the network. And I believe we're now moving into some more contracts with you around that sort of service.
Yeah, we're very grateful for that. It's always one of those things that Zscaler's prided itself on, is when we work with our partners and they choose our technology, and partners are in a unique situation where they have access to almost every player on the market. And so for Colt to choose Zscaler was a huge badge of honor for us. It was a hugely rewarding experience working with you and working with the team, demonstrating how we can do that. And of course, with the highly successful acquisition of Lumen and the EMEA assets there, bringing those two organizations together and again, creating and maintaining that consistent security posture and policy and experience and all of those things was a really good way to kind of demonstrate just what this can be. So
absolutely,
for all of those companies kind of maybe thinking about how do I do this, particularly around compliance and regulation and NIS2, please do relax. First of all, you have got a little longer than you think.
Right.
The directive is due, or the series of directives has been approved. However, the individual member states have a period of time to actually decide what they're going to really be on a individual basis. So there will be some rough similarities between them. There should be a level of consistency across all of them. There will, of course, be local flavor and local nuance. That's, again, one of the benefits of working with an EMEA-wide or a global partner like Colt, is that you have that local touch, you have those teams in those territories to help your larger customers make the best decisions to drive the outcomes that they're looking for the business, and also to maintain that level of regulatory posture that they're looking to experience.
Excellent. So we've sort of covered sort of regulatory and compliance and security, but I guess no conversation happens nowadays without mentioning AI. And obviously in cybersecurity, everyone's talking about it and saying either it's going to be a panacea, a magic bullet, AI is going to fix everything, stop all the threats happening. Or on the other side, people are saying, oh, AI is going to be a total disaster. Threat actors are going to use it to break into everything and everything's going to fall apart. First of all, what's your personal thought about that? And then maybe we'll talk about Zscaler as well.
My personal AI is just not there yet. Yes, we have some corner use cases and things like ChatGPT and kind of some of the image generation and some of the really interesting deep fake generation of company CISOs and CEOs being used to either sow disinformation in market or
it's going to be interesting, all the elections this year, isn't it, with half of the world going to elections.
To create those challenges. Now, I may be showing my age here, but I was always taught when I was at school to examine my sources and apply a primary, secondary, tertiary model to those sources. A little history lesson, but keep doing that for sure if you don't do it already. But we're not really there yet. We're not quite in the matrix.
Yep.
However, the use of machine learning is absolutely perfectly applied to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It is wonderful at identifying patterns and structures that the human brain can't comprehend or just simply can't see. And with the volume of data that we generate now, just not even on an organizational level, but on a signals level, a telemetry level, inside of a cybersecurity organization. I mean, Zscaler generates 400 trillion signals a day.
Yeah.
Analyzing that without a highly structured learning model or without the use of machine learning and AI is going to be impossible. Now, the steps that Zscaler have taken there is, you'll have seen in the press recently, we acquired a company called Avalor.
Yes.
We are making a huge investment in building a data fabric, or using the Avalor skills and expertise and knowledge to build that data fabric to not only take our signals, but then a whole range of external signals and build them into a very rich contextual environment that we can make better decisions and provide better intelligence.
It's great. I've always thought vulnerability lifecycle management is essential, isn't it, as part of how we deal with threats nowadays. If you're mapping that into everything, fantastic things that you do already at Zscaler, that's going to be very powerful.
And more than that, but it's that then external context around that signal to drive a better actionable outcome.
Threats, exactly, yeah.
You talk to any SOC and it's all about, how do I reduce false alerts? How do I reduce false positives? Context is the only way to do.
Yeah, so AI is going to help with all of that type of stuff. There's going to be more threats, etc. But looking forward then, Zscaler, where does Zscaler think they're going to go in the future then? How do we take this forward? Do we get new types of platforms? Does SASE go away? SSE go away? Does it change in the next few years? Where are we off to?
It's a $64 million question. I think the continual use of context, I think context is going to become a very key phrase, not only in Zero Trust, because it's already there. We apply context to a connection or to a request for a connection. But I think it's going to be more aligned in business context.
Right.
What is the business context of the connection I'm creating or the request that I'm receiving for access to data? Because this is what this all hinges around. And we kind of got a little bit away from this, but if you break cybersecurity down to kind of its first principles, there's only two of them. It is to protect the organization's data, which is its most critical asset.
Absolutely.
And to control access to it. Now, if you break that, providing context around those two things, and particularly the data piece, that's where the market will go. My wildly bold prediction, this is my own prediction, is that cybersecurity will essentially become a vehicle. It won't be the industry that we will be in.
Right.
As a whole, not just in, I think the cybersecurity industry changes. I think it becomes a data platform industry where, if I take this to its ultimate conclusion, cybersecurity could even become a business workflow. So imagine the idea of a zero trust business policy.
Yep.
Not the idea of creating a firewall policy or a rule-based policy around an action, but creating a zero trust policy around a business process.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I sort of think about, everyone thinks about internet connectivity being a key thing that you have nowadays, like electricity and water. And at the moment, we have safe electricity and safe water coming into our houses. Well, most of the time. I would like to see a point where we actually have safe internet coming in for businesses and for users, for individuals. And that really does need that platform approach, doesn't it? Someone like Zscaler is perfectly positioned to produce a completely clean feed coming through from that.
Absolutely. And the integration with Colt at that level and the Colt infrastructure network gives you an opportunity to do that. Now, if you embedded, for example, a ubiquitous level of Zscaler in both of the ASNs for Colt, you could, in theory, work down that route. And that would be a very, very exciting thing to explore.
I look forward to having a go at that with you, actually, Mike. Yeah, that would be really good. One more subject I'd just like to touch on before we finish. It's been brilliant. Thank you. The next thing that is on everyone's mind, apart from cybersecurity, obviously, is sustainability.
Yes.
And the amount of energy and impact on the environment that electronic business causes. What does Zscaler think about how they are helping customers with sustainability now?
It's becoming an increasing level or topic of conversation at the board level.
Yeah.
There are members of the boards in our larger customers, right throughout our markets, in fact, where they have a responsibility around ESG or a CSR, a corporate social responsibility mandate. We are starting to find some budgets around ESG. Now, Zscaler is very proud, as are Colt, in that all of the energy for all of the Zscaler data centers is 100% renewable. Yes. We have a heavy ESG series of programs that we have out there. There is one we call Zforestation, because it wouldn't be a Zscaler program without a Z at the front, where we have made a commitment and a pledge, it's available in the press, to reforesting certain areas in the sub-Asian continent. So wonderful initiatives like that. It's something we're very proud to work with Colt on as well.
Yeah.
And that message is being more and more raised up into the board.
Right. And do you find that companies can actually specifically measure the lessened impact on the environment where they move to a cloud security model?
Yes, absolutely. We have a business value calculator. You can work with our business value assessment team on this, where we look at the retiring appliances. Obviously, moving to a platform typically leads to the consolidation you mentioned earlier, and we can calculate off those platforms the carbon dioxide offset that you're going to deliver by retiring them and moving to a Zscaler cloud-based service or our SaaS-based service. We can then even calculate that down based on the number of users you have to a carbon offset per user in that way.
Thank you, Mike. I think maybe one sort of final question. So if there are some of our customers that are looking to deploy SD-WAN type solutions and they want to add cloud security solutions, what should be the next steps for them to engage Zscaler, Colt? How should they investigate that next move forwards?
Absolutely. The first thing I would say is pause.
Yep.
Okay. We don't have many opportunities in our industry to stop and take a big, deep breath.
No.
It changes constantly. The pace of innovation, the pace of development, the changing security market kind of has us running headlong at 100% all the time. But we can pause here. We can lose a whole era of technical debt.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to carry it with us. We can take time to figure out what your business wants to be moving forward.
Yeah. So we were forced by COVID really to do sort of 10 or even 15 years of transformation in a couple of years,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
And we've got a bit of security transformation to catch up with, to go with that.
I would agree.
That we went with.
I'd agree. And I'd also say that in that way, work with that single integrator concept that I mentioned before. You have access to the whole market. You have the ability to deliver the outcomes without the bias that a vendor will have. Of course, we want to sell our technology. We're here in business. Mm. But working with a integrator partner, a trusted integrator partner, with that connectivity footprint, because everything needs a connection, gives you the ability to figure out what you want to be moving forward and a mechanism for you to get there. So work with your partner, fill that skill shortage that you have with the skills of the partner. The vendors are always there to support partners. It's what the vendors do if they're doing it well. And take that together, solution out, but make sure it is all driven by business outcome.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike.
Always a pleasure.